Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. Music is a very personal thing, but it also is a personal thing that people like to share with their friends, almost evangelize about, have a shared experience, and tout their favorite acts and bands and musicians. And that's one of the things we'll visit with here with Tim Finn on our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, and every other week visit with Tim talking about popular music. And, of course, we always go in diverse areas. And when you're talking about people as diverse as Celine Dion and Bruce Springsteen and Luke Bryan, I think you get the point. So we explore some shows that have been held recently, some shows that are coming up, and some musical topics as well. It's all in the mix today as we talk with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine and 90.9 The Bridge. It's our every other Wednesday musical journey right here on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. Always pleasure getting together with Tim Finn, and he this week is on Wednesday on 90.9 The Bridge. Of course, he writes for In Kansas City Magazine and also occasionally for the website for The Bridge as well, and some industry pieces there. So look for his work wherever you can eat it up, and you can consume it here as well. And we love visiting with him every other week. And the reason your slot was moved this week is for a pretty good and fun reason for the Bridge, right?
Yeah, so Saturday is the 3rd annual Thunder Gong, which is a fundraiser for a charity, a nonprofit called Steps of Faith Foundation. and that was co-founded by Billy Brimblecombe Jr., who's a Kansas City musician, lost his leg, his left leg to below the knee to cancer, and so as he went through the process of aborting a prosthetic limb, he discovered just how expensive it is, and after he moved to Nashville, he was a studio musician there, a session musician, and he came across someone who designed prosthetic limbs. Anyway, he and this guy started this foundation, and it raises money to help amputees who are uninsured or underinsured afford prosthetic limbs. And Billy has been a longtime friend of Jason Sudeikis. They knew each other in high school. They did comedy improv together around here. So Jason helped Billy raise money for his leg back in 2005, and when Billy came up with this idea to do a fundraiser here, Jason is all in, and he brings like Will Forte has been at the previous two. He'll be here again. Fred Armisen. Last year they had Chance the Rapper, which was huge. So this year, this Winona, Madison Ward is going to perform with Madison Ward and the Mama Bear, the Get Up Kids. It's a really good lineup. It's part comedy and part music. A lot of music. The house band is Summer Breeze, which is a yacht rock tribute band, and they're great. Billy's the drummer in that. And it's at the Uptown. Last year they raised like $280,000, which is huge. So it's a great event. So on the bridge on Thursday, they're taking over this streetcar downtown, and they're just going to, Thundergong's going to, Sudeikis and Billy are going to be down there, and there's going to be all kinds of madcap mayhem and all that stuff. I think Sudeikis plays music, some of his favorite songs. So it'll be fun to listen in. 4 to 6 on Thursday, yeah. So I'm doing, Wednesday.
Right. Yep. And he'll return to Thursday, and we'll talk about some of the other shows that he features for this week. Tim Finn features in Kansas City Magazine a little bit later on. I'm going to start off with something a little personal and just shows to me the impact of music and how people get so enthusiastic about people they like and evangelical even to that point. Performer named Beth Hart, who started a Californian, who started in the 1990s and has played with Joe Bonamassa and has crafted a solo career that sees her in some portions of the country sell out shows very rapidly. Some other places she's still has to work a little bit to get a crowd, but she's very popular. I wouldn't say underground, but kind of a cult following type of musician. And my youngest sister, is a gigantic fan of her to the point where she emailed me recently and just said, "You have to go to this show. I insist you go to this show. I'm going here in Boston." I even said, "Well, why don't you come out and we'll see it?" "No, we're seeing it in Boston. It's sold out in 10 minutes. You better get your tickets now. Do I need to send you a check?" I mean, all this stuff. And my wife and I are going to go. I'm sure we'll go because I love my sister more than I love money. So even though we just laid out good money for the Mavericks in May, this show is in April. But I just thought it was an example of just how powerful music is and how people, when they really enjoy somebody, they want it to be an entire group activity. You've got to go, which can sometimes be risky if you're doing that with friends. I remember hauling a bunch of my college friends to an Aerosmith concert in Wichita in the late 1970s. And it was one of the worst shows I've ever seen. I mean, they've been great in concert on a few other occasions. I saw them, actually, coincidentally, my youngest sister, who you'd never dream that she was an Aerosmith fan ordinarily, but she saw them about 15 times back in the day. But anyway, I convince my friends. I say, we got to see this. They weren't really that famous at that point in time. They just had Dream On as a hit, and I dragged them down to Wichita, and it was awful. And they were fighting on stage, and Joe Perry and Steven Tyler almost came to blows. Wet Willie was the opening act, and they were better. Wet Willie. So there can be dangers inherent in this, but it is so great and so sweet sometimes just how much people love their favorite acts.
Yeah, there's a songwriter named Steve Poltz, really clever, pretty unique. He did some co-writing with Jewel on one of her hits. But I have a couple friends who will go to Denver to see him, and every time he's here, they've gotten to know him because they're so rabid about him, and they're always telling people to go. And I've seen him. It's a fun show. But yeah, I wouldn't go to Denver to see him. And I don't know if I'd see him more than once a year, but he's good. But yeah, some people just get really, especially if you get to know the performer, and he's of that scale where he's talking to fans after shows, and he's really endearing. But yeah, that's just one example. I know people who just will fly somewhere to see their favorite band, and even though they've seen him 3 times already
on the tour.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know people who like see the last show on the tour or something, after they see their show. But it lends me into another thing, personal thing. I was driving around the other day, and I was flipped on one of the satellite music stations, and Badlands by Bruce Springsteen was playing. And it sort of started an internal debate within me as to whether, as I was listening to it, I hadn't heard the song in a while, and I'm like, wow, this is really a damn good song. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, is this what I think is the best Bruce Springsteen song, or am I just caught up in the moment here? And I don't know whether I think it is or not, but it's certainly got to be close. And what a fabulous song! And it just and that's another thing where you might say that to one Springsteen fan, and he'd be ready to kill you, and he'd want to vote for Rosalita or Born to Run or whatever. So it's always interesting. But what a great song that is.
It's always a favorite in concert. I mean, I can't think of a song that gets a better reaction than that one. Certainly, a lot of them get the same reaction. It really kind of epitomizes. I mean, it's a political song, and it was on "Darkness on the Edge of Town," which was his comeback record after, the managerial and business stuff he had going on after Born to Run. So a lot of anticipation for that record. I think that's probably. Well, there's a lot of good songs on that record, but I think that's the one he plays the most live, and I think it's a lot of people's, at least in their top 10. I mean, I came at Springsteen from, my brother was buying his earliest albums, so my favorite is still Wild the Innocent and the East Street Shuffle. I just love that record to death. Born to Run, what can you say? That was my senior year in high school. It was all over the place. That's when he was on Time Magazine and Newsweek in the same week, and those 2 early records are really among my favorites. I'm like not a huge The River fan. I think there's too many songs on that. I saw that tour when he did it, the album start to finish, and about 10 songs in, I'm kind of
jonesing for another album.
Yeah, wait, can we get to the hits? Because there's a sameness to that record. I mean, I love the energy, and some of the best songs on there are my favorites, but. And after that, he's been, Tunnel of Love is a great record.
Yes, it is.
Nebraska's great. I love that. But he's been hit and miss for the last 10, 12 years, I think.
Right. And, now when you go to a show, it's a greatest hits show, which it certainly ought to be. I've seen him 3 times. Ironically, one of them was really bad. And the Springsteen fan I was with even agreed with me, which sometimes will get you into a fist fight about.
Right, because I've written some things, about the shows I've seen and said, it was good overall, but there was some, problems here, or there was a lull here, or the sound was bad, and his diehard fans do not want to hear that in the slightest. But his show here in November of 2012 is one of my top, at least 10, maybe 5 favorite shows. It's when he had the full horn section with him and background singers. Clarence Clemens' nephew, I think, was playing these sax for him. It was the first time I'd seen that, and it was magical. It was just so good. He was so into it, and I got feedback from a lot of people who said, one guy said it was like his 101st time seeing him, and it was one of the top 2 shows he's ever seen. So,
wow.
And I felt like I don't see how we could be much better than he was that night.
Let's talk about a couple of recent shows that you reviewed in Kansas City Magazine, a great online product and a great physical product as well. And Tim does the reviews, and he does Inside the Music, and he's got another good one in this particular issue, or recently, that you can see online. And let's start with Luke Bryan. And in reading your review, I sort of got the idea that, as we've talked about, you enjoyed the show from the standpoint of the fact that the fans enjoyed the show. Mm-hmm. But there was a bit of an undertone that maybe it wasn't for you, or this wasn't your flavor of country.
No, not in the least. I mean, just going through some of his lyrics, sometimes I wonder how he sings them without laughing, because there's just some eye-rolling moments. But, he sings about like the same 3 or 4 things. It's this devotion to, they're so meta and so self-referential. They're talking about being country, like, and the country life and what that means, and, trucks and beers and girls. And so after like 6 or 7 songs about that, it gets a little tedious. But, 2 things about this show. It had been rescheduled. It was rescheduled from October 3rd. He did this farm tour. He was going out to these rural places, and they set up and do this, outdoor show in the woods or wherever, down some dirt road. And so the first one on October 3rd, it was in Lewisburg, was canceled because, or postponed because it would rain so much, the roads in, and they didn't want to damage the grounds. Rescheduled it for October 30th. A couple of days before, they were looking at the forecast, and it was supposed to snow, which it did. So they moved it again, not the date, but they moved it to the Sprint Center. And I was wondering how that would affect attendance, because I'm sure some people were coming from out of town. I don't know. I thought that might prohibit some people from going, but I don't think it did much at all, because there were more than 11,000 people there on a night when the weather was not good. So props to him. And everyone was really into it. His shows are always like that. He's got a lot of energy. He's very kinetic. He knows how to play the crowd. He brought out his openers to sort of, when things got a little laggy, he brought out the openers, and they, like kick-started the pulse or the pace of the show. So, my take on that is everyone who bought a ticket got what they wanted, what they expected, maybe a little more. So, he gets a passing grade at least.
Celine Dion, to talk about something completely different. By the way, I was reading towards the end of the review. This is how dumb I am, or maybe I'm tired today, I don't know. And it said, there are images of Dion on the screen floating through water. And this was late in the review, and I'm like, why was she paying tribute to Dion?
Right.
But of course it was her. What a fool am I.
Celine, yeah.
Anyway, so Celine Dion comes and touring for the first time in 10 years, and you really seem to be taken by this show.
Yeah. So the last time she was here, it was in January of 2009. So it was more than 10 years ago, almost 11. So she was 40 or 41. She was still married. She would have had a 5-year-old son. And that was the typical Celine Dion show. She was very throwing herself into the songs, and she gesticulates and does all these like poses, and really shows off her voice. Does these vocal gymnastics that are impressive, but sometimes don't really service the song.
Sort of like a guitar leads, what we've talked about, that maybe you're just showy but aren't in the rhythm of the song.
Right, or it just seems excessive. But this time, a lot has happened. Her husband has died, like in 2016, so it's been 3 years. And she has suspended her residency in Las Vegas, where she was for like 1,000 shows. And she did that because she wanted to be in the same place so she could raise her family. She has a 15-year-old, I think 8-year-old twins. So, but what I noticed was that the mood was more temperate. She seemed really humbled and, I guess, grateful, emotional a couple times. You could tell she's grieving, and which is kind of the point of this record, which she called Courage. And there were a couple of songs that song in particular, she talks about, waking up and wishing you were here, and just grieving publicly. And then she sang that Eric Carmen song, All By Myself, which was really well done. But at the end of that, looks like she was wiping, a tear or two from her eye, and she was just like holding her chest and like, really appreciating, because everybody in the arena got it and was just,
right,
trying to make her feel better.
And you said that this was less show-offy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just seemed a little more reserved. And because we were talking, I've always thought about her voice is that it's like a little too perfect, a little too pristine.
Right.
But I didn't feel it nearly as much this time. And I think it's just because she's gone through so much, and she's she's 51, and she's, like I wrote, she's a sole parent. She's taken over her management of her career, so her role has completely changed, and I'm sure her perspective has too. Her kids are out on the road with her, so she's really, she's really deep into being a parent because, her kids need her.
Absolutely. And by the way, this past Saturday, for the first time, we've talked about this place before, my wife and I went to the Green Lady Lounge. Mm-hmm. What a great place. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a couple things. The Oregon Jazz Trio was playing upstairs, and they're fabulous.
Was that Chris?
Ken Lovern and
Ken Lovern,
Ryan Baggett is the guitarist, and Kevin Frazee is the drummer. B3 Hammond, B12. B3 Hammond organ based, but not overwhelming the other instruments. Really, really cool. Atmosphere vibe is great. Very limited menu. There's a cheese plate. There's a hummus deal. We got that. It's a really neat vibe, and they have multiple rooms. We didn't go to the other rooms, but one thing it's also just a hangout, because a lot of people came in there, and it's a long group, and then in the back there's just people like gabbing, and they seem to have no reason to be there at a jazz club. They're just there. Right. But what a cool place.
It is. It's run by a guy named John Scott, who owned a small fitness chain, I think, around here. He sold that to get into the music business, and he's got the Black Dolphin is next door,
right,
which is another jazz place.
And they're related. You can take your tab can go over there and such.
And he hires a ton of musicians, and so there's a lot of gratitude for that. He keeps bands and performers busy, and there really aren't any other clubs like those two. Part of the reason is there's no fee and no admission. It's it's free. So, and some people think it would help if you just charge $5. It would maybe keep out the people who are just going to show up and talk and don't care that there's music there. So
right.
There's been some debate in the music circles about that and that premise, and some places saying, well, attendance is down at my place because I have to charge $5 or $10, and
right.
So, but I think overall, those two clubs and John is a real asset to the especially the jazz scene.
So I would highly recommend you check it out if you like any kind of music. They did a couple of turns of they were playing one of their own pieces, and then put the riff from Rolling Stones' Bitch right in the middle of it. And I went and talked to the guitarist in between sets, and I said, how'd you come up with that idea? He goes, well, it's just such a cool riff. Why wouldn't I use it? Right. So it was really neat. I can highly recommend you going there. And as of now, it is free to get in. So enjoy it right downtown. The Green Lady Lounge.
It could be hard to get in there on some nights.
Oh, yeah. It was filling out. We were there early. We went there from like 6 to 8, and it was starting to really fill up. So cool place. Absolutely cool vibe there. We'll talk about some of the shows around Kansas City upcoming, as Tim always gives us a heads up on those, and that is next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way, and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Welcome back to our Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. Our every other week visit with Tim Finn from 90.9 The Bridge and In Kansas City Magazine. And let's go through some of the top shows that you've highlighted in the magazine as well. And on Thursday at Knucklehead Saloon, it's the Flatlanders, and this is rightly called a super trio of troubadours from Texas. Jimmy Dale Gilmore is from Amarillo, Joe Ely's from Lubbock, and Butch Hancock is from Lubbock. All are standout solo artists, obviously. They get together, and they've been together. They played together for a long, long time. Why would I have heard much more of Joe Ely?
Probably because he's worked with other people. He's just he's kind of on the outskirts. I saw this show. It was like a singer-songwriter circle at the it was either the Folly or the Uptown. This is back in the early 90s, and it was Guy Clark, Lyle Lovett, John Hyatt, and Joe Ely, and they just...
Sounds pretty sweet.
Oh, it was amazing. And that was my first real introduction to Joe Ely. He's sort of been more peripheral than like John Hyatt, who I think is kind of peripheral. Most people know who he is, but
right.
And Guy Clark is one of the greatest American songwriters ever, another Texan. So, yeah, that's where, I mean, I think if you know Texas songwriters, you should know who he is. I'm sure most people who are involved in the Texas songwriting world and history, like, because there's Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle and Lyle Lovett, who's from Houston, and Ely is one of them. And yeah, this trio got together back in the 70s, and not much happened. So they put out a couple records that just barely made noise.
Right.
I'm not sure there was a format for it. But then they went their separate ways, got some momentum going as solo artists. So when they got back together, it was a big deal.
They had like 3 audiences.
Mm-hmm. And I put out just 3 really good, super. The lyrics are great, the melodies, the harmonies, everything about it is good. If that's your thing, it's very acoustic, but it's very Texan. It's the lyrics are poetic most of the time.
On Sunday at the Truman Bishop Briggs, lady whose name is actually Sarah McLachlan, but
yeah,
not that one.
It's spelled different, but yeah.
What's her deal?
Well, I don't know much about her. I listen to her music. It's very catchy. It's very poppy. It's got it's not Billie Eilish because it's more effervescent than that, but it's a little emo, and I just hear she puts on a really, really good live show. Her records get decent reviews. I think most critics think it's a little, derivative, nothing we haven't heard before. But I read several live performance reviews, and I guess she's a really good live entertainer. She's in her mid-20s. I think she was born in London. Her parents were Scottish. They were born in Bishop Briggs, Scotland, so that's where she got her name. And then she grew up in Japan, she lived in Japan, and then she graduated from high school in Hong Kong, and then went to L.A. to do music. So she's kind of a world traveler, had a really interesting youth and young adulthood, and she was hell-bent on being a music star, and she's headed that way, it looks like.
And same night at Silverstein's Ice Center's Arena, I think that these shows would not have much crossover, so I don't think that's a concern. 3 different radio stations sort of promoting this, and 3 acts that probably don't fit into my wheelhouse, but...
it's actually 4, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, right. Bret Michaels with Night Ranger, Lita Ford, Joe Diffie. Night Ranger, who was the singer in Night Ranger when they were Night Ranger? Do you remember that?
Oh, it was, what's his name?
I recognize Jack Blades, the bass.
Kelly Keagy, who was the drummer, is the lead singer, yeah.
Okay,
and I guess it's his, Brad Gillis is the lead guitarist, and Jack Blades is the bassist.
Oh, so it's not Bret Michaels with Night Ranger.
No.
I misread the headline. I'm doing a lot of misreading so far. So Bret Michaels by himself.
Right.
Then Night Ranger, Lita Ford, Joe Diffie. I get it. Okay. It says Bret Michaels with Night Ranger. I'm like, oh, he's playing with Night Ranger. No.
Well, I'm sure he has a band of his own. But.
Yes, indeed. I don't think he needs them. For me, hey, for people who, this is I don't like usually hair bands. Was never a fan of almost none. Not that I don't like some of the. Hey, Sister Christian's a great song. I mean, there's no.
Right, and they're not really a. Night Ranger's more like pop metal, I think.
Yeah,
and,
I would say that's kind of right.
They don't really write about the stuff that Poison was writing about.
Right.
Which is, women in hot tubs and all kinds of debauchery.
Poison, sorry, folks. Danny at DannyKlinkScale.com. Poison, not for me. Not for me.
I've seen them several times. It's it's fun. They wrote some really catchy songs. Like most of those bands did, But it's almost like a parody of itself.
Yeah, yes, that's what I think.
But I don't know. I appreciate some of their music. Lyrically, it's just kind of
what it is,
shallow.
Right,
but,
right.
It's about partying, but when you're in your 20s, that's one thing. But when you're singing about that stuff in your 50s, it looks a little weird.
And Lita Ford, obviously more of a hard rock artist, and somebody who obviously was somebody who used her blonde good looks and then using the hook of hey, I'm a blonde bombshell, but I'm playing real hard rock music. So
and she was one of the Runaways, so which is Joan Jett's first band when they were teenagers. I've never seen her. I know she made some noise on the charts.
Yes,
back in the 80s, not long after they broke up. But I don't know. She must have some kind of following because she tours pretty regularly, and she's put out some records recently. But yeah, I've never seen her before. I will Sunday.
I'll be curious how they arrange the lineup. I mean, if Joe Diffie played last,
no, he'll play first.
I know he would. Yeah. So conversely, I mean, it just seems like people would go see Joe Diffie and then leave.
That might happen. I've seen it happen with other bands, like when the Foo Fighters opened for Red Hot Chili Peppers. A lot of people left after the Foo Fighters were done.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. That's just odd that his because he was a pretty popular country star. I mean, he had a bunch
but I think he's more of a kind of straight country, isn't he? Yeah.
But I'm expecting to be a little surprised at how many people are going to like him that will like other bands in the lineup. Maybe not all 4 at once, but I'm sure there's going to be some overlap.
Yeah.
But it is a strange lineup.
I'll be really curious our next time around to hear about that one. That sounds interesting.
Yes, I'm going in with what am I?
You sort of have a quizzical look on your face
into?
Right now.
I mean, I can imagine the crowd, kind of. But,
yes, there should be a diverse
and it'll be
group.
After the Chiefs game, so who knows what?
Oh boy!
I mean, they were on the road, but
okay, but still,
yeah,
absolutely. And then next Tuesday at Knuckleheads, the Sadies, and I'll just read this quote because it reminds me of trying to describe the Mavericks to somebody. It's different. I mean, they're not like this, but with 10 different things. We like the Sadies because they can play anything better than anyone else. It's from their record company. Surf, cool cowboy, psychedelia, electric bluegrass, spaghetti western soundscapes, garage punk, whatever. Well, that's covering the waterfront right there.
And they can, and I've seen them do it. But Yeah, they're from Toronto, and one of my favorite shows was I saw they opened for Nico Case and then were her backup band, and they were fabulous. They're just all really good musicians. Back when they were in Bloodshot Records, Bloodshot used to have a label showcase down at South by Southwest, and it was my favorite event of the whole festival because I liked so many of their bands, including Rex Hobart and the Misery Boys, who are from Kansas City. But you would get they call them like an Americana roots label, but you got every flavor, every shade, every blend of what falls under that umbrella, and they were one of them. And every band was different from the other, but it all seemed to make sense that they're all on the same label. And yeah, they're a fabulous band, really talented, and their sound is diverse.
Bottle Rockets at Knuckleheads. That one's on Monday.
No, that's this weekend.
Oh, it's this weekend. Okay, yeah, I can't count. I'm learning challenge.
No, yeah, I think this. Yeah, there's like Knuckleheads.
They're on the 9th.
Yeah, Knuckleheads has this weekend, like between the Flatlanders, the Bottle Rockets. There's a songwriter named Slade Cleaves who's really good. That's coming.
Wow.
The same night, he's the same Americana songwriter, and then the Sadies. Like I posted this on Facebook. Like, if you have the time and money, and you're a fan of alt country or Americana and roots, like you just camp out at Knuckleheads all weekend.
That sounds pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And at the Granada on the 10th, Angel Olsen. Your description is she is much a songstress as a songbird.
Yeah,
what
really,
does that exactly mean?
Her voice is really captivating. Her songs are ethereal. It's kind of a show you really need to go and listen and shut up. But yeah, she must be in her mid to late 20s and has put out a couple of really good records. But she's moody, I guess that's what I would say. And
right.
Her voice has a lot to do with it.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot to dig into over the course of the week, and that's always great to have a lot of different choices, and we gave you a whole bunch of them here today. Tim, always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Danny.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.